What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the Two Bucks Sports Podcast. This week has just been fun. I'm telling you, Rusty. Last week was a lot of fun. We this podcast. My view for this podcast is just to encapsulate what me and you talk about on the phone every week. It seems like every Tuesday or Wednesday we'll get on the phone and I'll just eviscerate you on your sports takes, and that's what I enjoyed about last week. Now, last week we were feeling it out, and this week we feel a little bit more comfortable. Like I told you at the end of last week's podcast, I I hope and pray that that was the worst podcast we ever do.
Yeah, like I said, man, I think one day when we're the next Barstool and Dave Portman is calling
Easy.
us asking for pointers, we're gonna look back at the first podcast and say, man, that was terrible.
You know, I'm not the biggest Barstool guy. Uh, they've kind of got a Texas A&M cult like following.
Yeah.
They're very very vocal online, and they're very much firing pitchforks anybody
Hmm.
who isn't the Barstool guy.
Hmm.
I'm
Sure.
not just the hugest fan. I like Pardon My Take
Mm.
occasionally. I
Yeah.
listen to it on
Occasionally.
Mondays. Yeah, on Mondays I like listening to football previews.
Hmm.
But I got a huge kick. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Barstool had their own basketball tournament,
It
the
was
little
incredible.
jamboree
It was
type
incredible.
deal. Watching them get up there, Big Cat get up there and sing the national anthem in a full on suit for a basketball game was hysterical. Now, there are purists out there that I'm, there are people that are going to say like, it's the anthem, take it seriously, and I get that. I'm a patriot. I like to do, I like to take that stuff seriously, but I
Mhm.
mean, come on, we're in that's an entertainment business, so let's be
Yeah.
entertained. I thought it was hilarious, but
Yeah, I thought it was great, and they made Mississippi State Akron interesting, playing for the over, which
mm,
fell just short, but it was
I
an
did see that.
incredible sequence.
That was something Musburger made famous back in the day. Musburger and Boomer,
Mhm.
making these discreet picks on
Mhm.
live television because
Mhm.
gambling was not legal, and
Nope.
so Boomer would like do the previews and do his picks for the next week, and it would be 3-2 Chicago over over Green Bay. And
Mhm.
what he was really telling you was take the under. You knew it because he was like 3-2. That's
Mhm.
not really going to happen unless it's a Mississippi State Auburn game.
Right. That's fair.
But,
How's that
but
thing?
take the, it was genius, and I
Mhm.
was too young and naive and didn't know anything about gambling at the time to understand it.
Mhm.
But going back and looking at it, just
Yeah.
genius.
Because Drew, sports are a ton of fun, and it's always fun to watch good teams. And good teams win games, but great teams cover.
And you know what? It's not something that I realized until I was older, but you can take any crap matchup,
Yeah,
put a little money on it, and
absolutely.
I'm in. You know,
Mhm.
that's what I've realized makes Maction so fun.
Yeah, and the Fun Belt, man.
Yeah, you get that Wednesday night Central Michigan versus Eastern Michigan matchup.
In a foot of snow.
Yeah, and you are just playing for points. Let me tell you.
That's it, man. That's the only connection there, and it's fun. It makes it interesting too. Just watching games like that, and then it's always fun to see how the line changes with, like for instance, the Buffalo game this weekend. They're calling for 70 inches of snow in Buffalo, which Drew, you would never be able to go outside. We'd lose you.
Yeah,
And
I mean, or I'm the perfect player to have carrying the ball in 6 feet of snow.
absolutely.
I mean, you wouldn't even see a helmet. It'd be like a mole running through your yard. And
Exactly.
and sh- and shame on the NFL for moving
Yeah.
that game.
I mean, come
Shame.
on. It's a snowball.
Listen, I know player safety is a big deal. I don't know that there's anything safer than slowing down the speed of runners by putting 6 foot of snow on the ground.
And there's always a chance when a sloppy game in the snow like that you're gonna get a big guy touchdown and a big guy
Oh
touchdown
yeah,
day, including a massive snow angel.
right, right. You're absolutely right. It's like, does Marcel Darius still play for the Bills? That's
Sure,
the guy that would have gotten the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Or some big like Midwestern, like Iowa graduate center or nose tackle that's just wearing like rubber elbow pads and gloves, no long sleeve, and just like belly flops.
Tough guy.
Absolutely, big tough guy.
Yeah. I mean, shame on them. And I was getting ready to pick their opponent. Who? Shoot, I've just went blank. Who are the Bills playing?
The Browns.
The Browns. I was going to put big money on the Browns because they're going to be wearing their road white uniforms.
Absolutely.
And camouflage.
Absolutely. And a fun little tidbit for you, Drew. The last time a Buffalo Bills game got moved because of snow was against the Indianapolis Colts. And you know who the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts in that game was?
What year?
I saw it earlier.
It was it post Manning?
Yes.
If it's pre-Manning, I'm out.
No, it wasn't pre-Manning. Shout out Patrick Jones. He probably knows this answer as well.
There's an angle here, isn't there?
There is. He would be starting Sunday.
It's Jacoby Brissett.
Yes, it is.
It's Jacoby Brissett.
Brissett. How about that?
Yeah. And see, maybe he's the culprit. If both times it snows in Buffalo, Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback, he's the one. He's the one that's saying, I can't do it, coach.
I can't do it, man.
Nope. I'd rather play in Detroit.
Yeah, bring Deshaun Watson back a week early. Like, I know that's not PC, but let him play and let us play in the snow.
Yeah.
Here we are
He likes playing with 6 inches.
We're getting canceled episode 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to focus on some other sports this week, but we're going to hit the League of Avengers first. Okay. We're going to hit some real quick, do some Drewskies. We'll update the standings, update the playoff brackets, give quick thoughts about next week, some matchups, and then we're going to get into some other sports that we love. Let's see. While I pull this up, Rusty, take over for 1 second.
Drew, I'm sitting here thinking, man, like you're a music guy, right? We got a lot of music guys in our league, and I'm sure some music guys listen to this. Nathaniel Ratliff is one of my favorite. Ratliff is one of my favorite. Ratliff, sorry, one of my favorite artists. You bear a striking resemblance to him.
Short, fluffy, hairy man. I've been called much worse.
No, it's the beard, man. You got the beard,
Well, I said hairy. I mean,
I saw him in Charleston this summer, and that was one of the better live shows. He didn't really say much. He didn't introduce his band. They just played for like an hour and a half. Zach Bryan opened, and they were the headliners, and it was a phenomenal concert.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Our buddy Zach has seen him a couple of times, I believe.
Puts on a great show.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into Drewskies. Competitive week for the most part this week in the League of Avengers. Let's pull up the scoreboard here. The first award, as we do every week, at least for right now, first award we give is commemorating Buddy Stevens, the head coach of the East Mississippi Lions. The great, who, if you don't know him, he is famous for just beating the brakes off of people, because back in the day in the junior college ranks, there were always several teams that were 10-0 going into the playoffs, and they don't do a tournament or a playoff system like the NFL. So it was always on point differential or how many points you scored. And so they would just mercilessly beat the brakes off of everybody. And the team that beat the absolute dog crap out of their opponent this week was Mr. Zach Jones. Zach Jones of Kingpin Henry. He put up a score of 138.74. Now, that's a good week. And like I said last week, to get a Buddy Stevens award, you need to have a good week. But you have to have your opponent crap the bed. And that's just what his cousin, one Andrew Farrell of Team, bet you can't guess his name, Team Farrell.
Farrell Home and Outdoor.
A paltry, abominable 76.14 points. And that resulted in a defeat by math, carried the one, 62 points. 62 points.
Yikes.
Team Farrell's leading scorer was one Kirk Cousins, the swag father himself.
Kirk Shiesty.
Kirk Shiesty. Devontae Smith had 13.9. Pretty good for a flex option. Not to be your second highest score of the day. And Kingpin Henry, who obviously, I'm judging based on the name. He has Derrick Henry, correct?
I believe so. No, he does not.
No. Kingpin Henry, his leading scorer was Justin Jefferson, who was absolutely incredible. Did you see his catch he made on 4th and 18 for the Vikings?
That made OBJ's catch look like a walk in the park, man. Unbelievable catch.
I mean, it was magnificent. If you haven't gotten on Twitter and seen the video of the call of the play-by-play announcer for the Minnesota Vikings calling that absolute classic of a game, if you didn't see it, 4th and 18, Justin Jefferson snagged the ball that was just improbable at best that anyone would ever catch it.
It was overthrown by 8 to 10 yards, easy.
Yeah. It was Odell's catch if there was a defender behind Odell that once he caught it, he then ripped it out of the arms of the defender and went down. And they scored, and they were down, and then they missed it on 4th down, right? The next possession. They were short on 4th and goal from the 1, and Buffalo takes over. And all they had to do is get it out of the end zone and take a knee, and it's over. And they botched the snap, and the defensive lineman falls on it in the end zone to force it to go to overtime.
Yep.
Just an absolute classic.
And Vikings win in overtime. I mean, you can't make that up, man.
And no one benefited more than Zach Jones out of that.
Absolutely.
So, 24 points from Diggs. That matchup, that was he had both receivers in that matchup, Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs, and he got 60 points out of it between the two of them. Just a massive.
Yeah. And he's riding the hot hand of Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard with 21.8 points. Had a massive day for Dallas. Slowly but surely supplanting Zeke as the star running back there for sure.
Right. That's true. And it seems like the only people that don't see it are the Dallas coaching staff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The next award, like I said, we're going to go quickly through these. Is the Al Gore Award, most points in a loss. And boy, this was a nail biter. Curtin Winter Soldiers put up 141.66 points against fantastic three-peat of Hunter Shaw's team. Hunter's team that has just been absolutely on fire since putting Justin Fields in the lineup.
Yeah.
He takes the win by less than 8 points in a matchup in which both teams scored over 140. Just absolutely incredible. An absolute bad beat for Neasy here. I mean, 38 points from CD Lamb. It's his best game of the year. Just a killer week and an absolute gut punch. He not only scored the most points in a loss, the only team he would not have beaten this week is Hunter.
Yeah. And ironically, looking down his scores, every single team of the players that he had lost except for the Arizona Cardinals defense. Every one of them were in a loss.
And what stinks is that going into this, he was on the bubble. Last week, let's see, he was 7th in the standings. He was he was 4-5, not out of it, he's not in the gutter with me and Woody, and wasn't totally out of it. This backbreaker definitely sealed the deal for his season, though. I mean, it just a brutal loss.
Hmm. Yeah. Tough. Yeah. Tough. It's hard. Like you said, it's hard when you would have literally beaten every other team but the team that beats you. That's rough, man.
Right. Yeah. And then the last award of the day, we debuted this one last week. This is going to be the OJ Award. And the one who barely got away with the win this week was Aaron. And Trey Zam Debo Grayson.
Yeah.
I just we're gonna call him Aaron from now on. Aaron's having a great year, 7-3. He beat me by less than 3 points. Now, I would say that sucks, but my team we scored 99 points. It's just rough. Last week I was on the receiving end of Mr. Buddy Stevens, and this week, I got in a pillow fight and lost. It was bad.
Tough year for your boy Justin Herbert, man. Thought that was a good pick, but he's just really struggled this year, or the offense hadn't been suited to him. One of the two.
Well, I was in a situation at the turn there. If we go back to the draft, I had a late pick. Out of a 12-team league, I believe I was pick 11. And so I really reached, and where I messed up, and when I went for it, I took the leap. I mean, I'm standing on the cliff, and I'm like, well, there's only one way I'm going to make it to the other side. I'm going to run, and I'm going to jump as far as I can. I'm going to hope that a couple of these ropes, I can make it. And if they hold up, I'm going to make it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the time of my life as I soar like Tarzan across this cliff here and hit the water on the other side and just a majestic swan dive. Okay. But those two ropes that I pulled, that I risked my whole season on, Justin Herbert and, wait for it, Kyle Pitts. Oh boy. And let me tell you, I didn't make I'm dead mangled at the bottom of that cliff. Let me tell you.
We need to pour one out for the homie Kyle Pitts, man. Just in a miserable black hole in Atlanta, and like,
I tell you what,
he's got Marcus Mariota throwing passes from his back. Like, what's happening?
I mean, Mariota made Delaney Walker a very good tight end. I thought he was a tight. He would target him. Yeah. There's something there, and I don't know if it's a Pitts thing. I don't know if it's a hustle thing. I don't know if it's a scheme thing.
Yeah.
But he's too good to just be that bad, and he's been with the draft capital that he's worth in a just horrible position for fantasy football, top to bottom. Absolutely. I can't you're stuck with just having to play. Like, I can't do anything. Nobody wants him because for a third round value in which I paid for him, I'm not going to go 1-for-1 to get Hawkinson. Like, I know I should probably just sell at a loss and just get out. But man, I'm going to keep reaching for that rope.
I mean, the potential's there. You snag it, you look like a hero. Otherwise, you'll just ride him to the offseason and bottom of the league.
Yep. So right now, we'll recap the standings. Moving into first place this week. Let's see. And a three-way tie for first is you, Rusty, Fat Drunk Thor, Sabermuth, and Trey Zam. All three of those teams were tied for first last week, and they held on this week. Rusty has the edge with a 1,220 points for. Just less than 40 points behind you is Mutters with Sabermuth. And then about 50 points behind them is Trey Zam. It's put Aaron in a bad spot because he needs to keep winning because there's some people on his heels when it comes to points for that he don't want to share that category with. And there's 3 teams at 6-4, including including Zach and Kingpin Henry, who is on an absolute tear.
5 in a row, man.
5 in a row. The fifth, and the most recent one was the biggest blowout of the week.
Yeah, he's getting hot at the right time, man. It's all about getting hot at that right moment, right? You see the Colorado Rockies in the playoffs that year. I think it was 2008, where they swept all the way to the World Series. They weren't supposed to be there. They got to the World Series and they lost to the Red Sox. But still, they got hot at the right time. I know, that's an old man reference.
Come on.
That's an old man reference.
Come on. We're not talking about the Colorado Rockies on this podcast.
Well, shout out to the Rockies.
We said this is a podcast for fans who like Southern sports, okay? That is the most regional sport that we have. If you want to talk Cubs, Braves, and Cardinals, we'll do a segment. We are not talking about the Colorado Rockies.
I don't know, man. Charlie Blackmon, Southern boy from South Georgia, played Georgia Tech, long flow, big beard. I'll take that all day.
All right, next on the podcast. What you got next? We're going to get into some other sports. So, Rusty, you tell me what you want to talk about next.
All right, so last week, man, didn't do so hot in my picks when I actually 1 for 4. So not to get rich picks, but they're the ones that see like get by. The only one that I hit.
They'll call it the get even picks this week.
Get even picks.
I told you that Ole Miss and Alabama's got to take the under.
Let's take the under. Yeah. The only one I hit on, I took the under in the Auburn A&M game, and I'm glad I did. That was painful football. Anybody that slugged through that, man, you're a better football fan than I am.
That's why you don't bet under. Even we were talking about earlier, betting on games makes bad games fun to watch. Mm-hmm. But if you're betting the under, I mean, what are you doing? Watching a bad football game and cheering for defense? I'd just rather go outside and rake leaves.
See, I bet that game. It was late. It wasn't one I was going to watch. It was when Mississippi State was playing Georgia, and I just like, you know what? That's a game that I'll take because I'm not going to watch it. I know it's going to be bad football. And
good palate cleanser to get that taste out of your mouth.
That's it, man. You know, hit that buzzsaw. That is the big dogs.
Yeah. Well, what you got this week?
Speaking of betting the under, I'm taking the first one. I'm betting an under. I'm not going to watch the game, but it's a 12 o'clock noon kickoff. TCU Baylor. Both teams are playing good football, but not great football. TCU needs to keep winning. I think they find a way to win this game, but the over-under is 57.5. Both of these teams have pretty solid defenses, and for a 12 o'clock kickoff, I'm taking the under, man. Taking the under.
What's the spread?
I'm pulling that right now. But we're 57.5. The 57.5 is the total. I think that's an under. Let me pull it out right here.
If that was a spread, that would have been I'd been more likely to take that. Georgia minus 57.5 last week.
It's TCU's, and this is wild, man. So TCU, number 4 ranked team in the country, they're undefeated, playing Baylor. Baylor's they're 3-2 in their last 5, not playing super great football, but TCU's a 2.5 point favorite.
Where's it at? Is it at Baylor?
It's at Baylor.
Be careful with that Baylor team. You know, the Big 12 is very much have been known for that wide open offense, very little defense. Dave Aranda's there now, and I watched that team play in the bowl game against Ole Miss last year, and that defense is good.
Sure. That's why I'm telling you, that's why I'm taking the under. Both defenses are good. They're both allowing about 130 yards rushing, less than 370 yards a game. And then Baylor last week against Kansas State laid a big old fat egg, lost 31-3. I don't like a lot of points in this game. I'm taking the under.
Okay. And maybe it's time to start believing TCU. I'm not saying that they're going to upset anybody in the playoff if they make it, but you've won your big games.
Yeah.
And you've won the games that people kind of pegged against you. I mean, a 3-loss Texas team came into town last week, and you just really made them look bad. So maybe it's time.
They're not winning pretty, right? They beat Oklahoma State by 3, Kansas State by 10, West Virginia by 10, Texas Tech by 10, Texas by 7. Like, they're winning, but they're not winning pretty. And so,
grit and grind, baby.
Again, that's it, man. They in the mud. Man.
All right, what's your next one?
All right, next up, Tennessee, South Carolina. I bet against Tennessee last week. I took Missouri thinking that they would show up for that game, and they showed up for the first half.
You felt good at halftime.
I did. I felt great at halftime.
You weren't expecting the Joe Milton show to show up.
Oh my God! I mean, that made with like 20 seconds to go. That bomb to the corner over there.
I was furious because they played CBS at 11 o'clock, and my Revs played Alabama at 2:30 on CBS directly after, and Tennessee would not quit scoring, and they would not quit commercial breaks. They pushed the Ole Miss game back, and finally they just cut it off. They're just like, fine, we're going to Ole Miss. Like, if you're going to keep calling timeouts on the goal line up 56-21 to go try to punch it in, then you're going to just have to be there in person to watch it.
Listen, I learned my lesson. Josh Heupel is on that get us in the playoffs tour. They're playing at South Carolina. It doesn't matter. The over-under 66. This one might be 66-0. Tennessee covered easily. Next up, so this one's kind of going to be controversial. We kind of highlighted this earlier off air. Liberty is playing Virginia Tech. The Fighting Hugh Freezes is coming off what, if you look at it on paper, right? Like, man, this is an ugly loss to a UConn team who's on the rise, man. Jim Mora has them pointing in the right direction. They're winning a lot of good games. I don't hate the direction that UConn's heading in, but I don't know enough about it to really talk about it. So we're going to move on. The Fighting Hugh Freezes are he's playing for a job at Auburn. They're looking at him. The SEC has a very short memory. I think they come out. I think they play really well. I think they beat Virginia. Virginia Tech is awful. They just know that they are awful.
And does the loss to UConn last week not show you the distraction, though, that the possible vacancy at Auburn could have on a team?
I don't disagree.
I'm with you. Jim Mora Jr. has done a real good job this year, especially considering he didn't even start the season as a coach. If you remember, Randy Edsall was the coach to start the year. And he got fired quick, because anytime you hire a coach at the same school a second time, it never turns out well, unless you're Bill Snyder. And I think he could go back to Kansas State tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But I think maybe, Liberty has a lot of transfers. You got a lot of guys that are in there because Hugh Freeze is there.
Right.
He's a name, and he's a good football coach. I mean, I watched him for 5 or 6 years at Ole Miss. He's a good football coach. His biggest flaw is not X's and O's, and it's not on the field. No. And honestly, if you want to talk about Auburn for a second, outside of Lane Kiffin, because obviously I want to back up the Brinks truck and keep Lane at Ole Miss until he wants to go to the pros, because I honestly think there's only 2 jobs that he truly desires, and I think that's Alabama and that's the NFL.
The NFL.
If you tell me,
I really don't.
If you tell me that, I'm telling you, in 5 to 6 years, he's not going to be the coach at either of those schools. He's going to be at Alabama or he's going to be in the NFL. And if he takes the Auburn job, he eliminates one of those jobs, because he will never be Alabama coach if he goes to Auburn.
As arrogant as he is, I could see him thinking he could go to Auburn and beat Alabama and then vice versa, but he's not taking that job, man. I think he was more likely to take Miami. He's going to stay at Ole Miss until Alabama and the NFL comes open. I agree, but I think Hugh Freeze has a really good shot. Unless Cadillac Williams keeps him on this winning train, it's going to be Hugh Freeze.
Cadillac Williams needs to lose. Auburn fans need Cadillac to lose. I've seen this movie. Ole Miss fans got emotional over an Egg Bowl win over State and hired Matt Luke, the homegrown guy, the guy that bleeds red and blue, who loves the university. It never works out.
No,
it's a train wreck. You never hire the interim. Ed Ogeron, he got a title out of it. He caught lightning in a bottle, but we all saw how it ended. Joe Burrow and a 2-star recruit, Justin Jefferson. Totally swung that, and it had nothing to do with Ed Ogeron.
Yeah, I saw that team play in person, and I've watched football now for almost 35 years, so almost 36 years, and that was the fastest football team I've ever seen, man. That was just talent on talent, and you don't hire the interim. I think they go after Hugh Freeze. They're 8-2. Virginia Tech has been getting mauled in all their games recently. Before the UConn loss, they beat Arkansas, they beat BYU. I think Liberty covers. It's a 9.5-point spread when I took it. I think Liberty wins by at least that, if not double that, man. Virginia Tech's a battle.
I don't hate it. Anytime you're playing a Power 5 and you're that favored, it's because both sides are – your side is really good and the other side is really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Easy take.
All right, hit me with your last few pretty quick.
Two more. I got Oklahoma State. Bedlam. Big rivalry game coming up this weekend. It's at Oklahoma State. Big rivalry game. Brett Venables has that defense, ironically, in shambles at Oklahoma. They never really have great defense. He's a defensive guy, not playing good football. Oklahoma State, when I took it, was a 7.5-point favorite. Dude, I think they win by at least 20 points. It's still 7.5, over under 66.5. I think Oklahoma State wins. I mean, easily, man. Easily.
Yeah, Oklahoma State's been reeling too.
Mm-hmm.
Is their quarterback back?
I believe so.
What's his name? Spencer Sanders?
Sanders kid. Yeah, he's back.
Because that's when their whole season went to the pits.
Yeah, I agree.
That game against TCU when he got injured.
Yeah.
If he's back, I'm with you. I don't point spreads in rivalry games. If you like the favorite, I'll speak from experience. If you like Ole Miss in an Egg Bowl game, I'm only comfortable taking the money line because those things get weird.
They do get weird. They do get wild. But a 7.5-point favorite, that's a 10-point win. I think Oklahoma State's at least a 10-point better team.
All right.
And then finally, we'll wrap up real quick. My last pick of the day, I'm going right into your backyard. This really sucks, man. I hate to make this pick. I really do. I hate Ole Miss in every capacity. I hate Arkansas baseball fans. They're kind of the worst bunch of turds, you know.
Yeah. I agree with you.
This is a weird game, man. There's some weird stuff happens in this rivalry, you know.
Let me tell you what I'm thinking right off the bat. In any Ole Miss Arkansas game, take the over.
Absolutely.
They're stupid. They are drunk outdoor or Thanksgiving family football level of trash football. It's weird every year. Every year it's a shootout. Every year I just turn the game off when it's over and I'm miserable win or loss.
Yeah. So I could say a name of Hunter Henry. I know that give you a shiver in your spine. 6 overtimes. Like weird things happened in this game. 7 overtimes. Weird.
I was there. Doug Ziegler got hit on the 1-yard line. Eli Manning hit the tight end on the 1-yard line in the 7th overtime, and he got hit in the back, fell short.
So we left Corinth to go watch the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars play in Nashville. We got some tickets to go to that game, me, Mom, and Dad, and Clark. And we left when the game was going on, and we got to our hotel in Nashville and watched the end of the game.
I was sitting in the stands, and I was there for Hunter Henry. I've never been more upset in my life.
Sure.
That game, that 7 overtime game, that was what was his name? Matt Jones.
Yeah.
McFadden, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis.
Yeah.
I believe that was that team. I know it was Matt Jones. Maybe a little early for McFadden. I don't remember. Anyways, we lost that game, and I looked at Mom and Dad and said, all right, well, let's just go. I'm ready. I'm
over it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. This is actually a bonus pick. I got 2 here. I'm taking the over 65.5. I agree. That's a lot of points.
This game's going to be 56 to 53.
53, absolutely. Yeah. 8 overtimes. Ole Miss wins, and I took them to cover. It's a 2.5-point spread. I think they win by at least a touchdown. You know, 8 overtimes, and it's like 57-50. Ole Miss win.
If you really want to dive in deep here, it's around 20 degrees. Our quarterback's from Southern California. It's at Reynolds Razorback Stadium, which it's like Arkham Asylum.
It's wild, man.
In Reynolds Razorback Stadium. I'm telling you, it's hog hats everywhere.
And I tell you, I went on an official visit to Arkansas, and you walk to a building.
Official visit? What are you, a recruit?
This was back in the day, man. Back in the day. They would turn the buildings while you're inside of it. You walk uphill back to your vehicle. It's the wildest thing, man. I've never walked uphill out of a building like that. So, yeah, that's my picks for this week. Hopefully I'll fare better than last week, 1-4. So we'll see how that went. Next, I want to kind of introduce a new little segment. Get your thoughts on this, Drew. You know, you and I are rivals in every single sport.
Yeah, I hate if it wasn't for one common denominator. You would be my worst enemy.
We don't agree on college football, baseball, or any college sports. Yeah. We don't agree on professional football. It doesn't really matter. Professional baseball, it doesn't matter. Don't agree. The one we agree on are those Bruins from Beale Street, man. How about the Memphis Grizzlies?
Man, I tell you what. Thank God for the Grizzlies because I got to keep a friend.
That's right.
We are Grizzlies homers, and it's the one sport, I feel like it's huge nationwide, but where I'm at, I don't feel like I have. It's not something I can just talk to folks about at work, you know.
No.
And the Grizz have had that bug again this year. They've hit that injury bug again. And
Yeah.
last year, you have Ja that's down for 25, 26 games. They go, they go 22-4, something like that, without Ja. This year, you start with Triple J on the bench because of a foot injury.
Mm-hmm.
You bake in some games for him to lose. I
Yeah.
think he's great. I think that on the defensive end, especially, his shot's not fallen. His shot hadn't fallen since his rookie year.
No.
On the defensive end, in his first game back, he had 5 blocks. He
Mm-hmm.
looked incredible. And then the first game he's back, man, is the first game of at least 2 to 3 weeks that Desmond Bane is going to be out. And Desmond Bane has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
He's shooting over 40% from 3 with around 9 attempts per game. That's high volume. That's high percentage. It's been great. And what it's been great in particular is when Ja goes to the bench. Everybody knows with Ja, he's going to go out with a few minutes to go in the first quarter. He's going to come back with a few minutes into the second quarter. He's going to do the same in the third and fourth. He's going to miss the last few minutes of the third, and he's going to miss the first few minutes of the fourth. And that first few minutes of the fourth has been crucial this year because it's the Desmond Bane show.
Absolutely.
Desmond Bane is handed the keys. Dylan Brooks has been told to gave him the keys, quit fighting over the driver.
Straight up ludicrous, right?
Yeah. So they've handed Dez the keys, and he leads the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. And that is all because of those 3 to 4 minutes. John Tibbet comes in around this 7 to 8 minute mark in the fourth quarter. Those minutes are the reason why Desmond leads in the fourth quarter. And if you want to see how evident how that loss is you look back at that Pelicans game.
We should have won that game so many times, man. And it goes, a lot of it goes real quick, just to add in, missing him. I'm sure you're going to talk about this. We just don't have any guard depth. Losing DeAnthony Melton, while he's not like a huge star, those quality minutes are hurting us, right?
Right. And they are. And to wrap up, you look at that. We entered the fourth quarter in a tie game or a 1-point game.
1-point game.
I think it was a 1-point game. By the time Ja came back in, the Pelicans, and that's Ja's typical rest without Desmond on the floor. We got outscored 10-2 in that run.
And they were firmly in control.
And that 2 points was a offensive rebound by Brandon Clark and a putback. So it wasn't in the flow of the offense. It wasn't a fast break. It was a missed shot that was cleaned up by Brandon Clark. They've got to figure it out. And the guard depth is a problem with Dez out. Conchar got the start. Now, I love John Conchar. I think John Conchar does. He's one of those things. My dad has always said, I do a lot of things pretty well, but I don't do anything great. And that's John Conchar.
Fair.
John Conchar is that guy. He's going to hit a 3 for you every once in a while, but he's going to rebound. He's going to hustle. He's got that Melton feel without the offensive talent, the dynamic offensive talent. And so Conchar ended up playing 30-something minutes in that Pelicans game, and CJ McCollum just killed him.
He's always a Grizz killer, man. Even when he was in Portland, he's always played. It's like if you took.
He even tried to kill Conley.
Yeah. Right. Like visibly tried. But if you just took CJ McCollum's games against the Grizzlies, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like he
absolutely
tears us
Grizz
up.
killer.
Tears us up, man. When you got Conchar, he's playing. He played 37 minutes. The same.
Oh my goodness.
37 minutes, man. That's just like he was 4 for 6 from the field. Like he didn't attempt a ton, but he just wasted space out there. But I think he's really hurting us a lot. And I know he's young. I know he's got a lot of growing to do. I just haven't seen a lot of good things out of David Roddy. In his last 5 games, his plus minus when he's on the floor are -16, -24, +50, and -15.
Well, he's
hard line, man.
let's put some context with this, and let's remember where we are, because he's a rookie.
Sure.
And
I get
now
that,
I
man.
know he's not a one and done. He's a 4-year guy like Dylan was. Dylan came in super inefficient, hustled, played defense. As he got more confident, and ended up in worse results for the Grizzlies.
Sure.
But he's still Dylan leads every year. He's on the top of the team in the top few of plus minus net rating on our
Sure.
team because of that defensive intensity. And I think that's what they love about Roddy. Roddy's problem is that he's only a month into his first NBA season. You remember Zaire last year. Zaire killed this team, and they stuck with him. And to their credit, this front office has chosen to take their lumps early with these rookies. We're going to take our lumps, and by playoff time, Zaire was key.
Sure.
And so I'm withholding all judgment on Roddy. Go take your lumps. He's not getting many minutes. Neither is Laravia. I really expected an uptick in Laravia's minutes with Dez out,
But he didn't play
especially
all
since he is a shooter.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm withholding all judgment because in Kleiman I trust. I mean,
Sure.
we rooted for those grit and grind Grizzlies where in between Mike Conley and Jaren Jackson Jr., not a single player drafted ever got a second contract.
Mm-hmm.
That was the team that we cheered for.
Right.
And now they kill it every time. And they don't just kill the draft, they kill the development.
Mm-hmm.
And so let these guys take their lumps.
Sure.
And then let's just move on. So if we're talking post all-star break, if David Roddy hadn't made that turn, I fully expect him to be on the bench. I mean, I think they're smart enough to know when to cut bait, but I believe he'll end up having a role. And I'm not saying a big role, but a role.
Sure. I hope you're right, man. I really do. I haven't seen a ton of him. He looks confused. He looks lost a lot of times on the floor. And while Zaire had some struggles, he never looked lost. He was in the right position. His shots just weren't falling. His defense wasn't quite there. I just feel like David Roddy, and again, you're right. He's just a couple months into his first NBA season, but he was a 4-year guy at Colorado State. And he just it looks like the game is too big for him sometimes. And in big moments, like the other night against the Pelicans, he looked lost. And every time he got the ball, he tried to get rid of it as quick as he could. He was out of positional defense a lot, and they got a lot of easy, quick buckets, and they were able to get in the lane a lot more because he wasn't closing those lanes. And so I hope you're right. I think he's got the potential, but it's got to catch up. He's got to catch up.
And I'd really like to see more out of Laravia.
Yeah.
I don't know where they slot him in because he's too big for a 2 guard and he doesn't really have the handles. But with Dez there, and especially with Ja, the most important thing to have around Ja, it's like LeBron. It's the reason why the Lakers have never figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
What you need around LeBron are shooters.
Yep.
And Laravia is that.
Yeah.
He is a bucket from behind the arc. Just let him go, stand out there, and make them respect him from 3.
He could pick up those Kyle Anderson minutes that we're missing. Kyle was that guy. He was super. I was talking about him today. He was the most athletic guy I've ever seen. But he could walk into any LA Fitness in our town right now and just dominate. Right? He's a guy he just gets these points. He's in the corner. He hits that corner 3. He's got the little up and under layup. That's where Laravia fits. We just got to start getting minutes to see if that's what works. But that's the minutes that we can take.
And Kyle, we miss Kyle because. Mm-hmm. In that job bench lag that we have, he was that switchblade. He was that Swiss Army knife that could carry the ball up, or if Steve-O was in foul trouble, he could play the post. If Jaren was injured, whatever, we miss him. And that's the only Melton. I loved Melton.
Mm-hmm.
Melton most of the time withered in the playoffs, but man, he was serviceable. He was good, but we miss Kyle more for what he was versatility-wise.
Yeah.
And it's something that they're going to have to figure out. And I think Zaire will fix that. I do. I believe Zaire, before the season, I thought he would take a leap. Mm-hmm. I think Zaire's good. I think his knee problem is, probably because he's growing, So I don't know. We'll see. But I think that fixes it.
Yeah, but and then two, like getting Tripp back to his normal self. First game back, super rusty, a little skittish on defense at times. He was aggressive on offense. He took 7 threes, 14 shots. He got after a little bit, plus minus 6, not awful. But first game back, I'm just like, that's what made me. I like that most about last week, man. Like getting him back, getting him some minutes. He looked good. The foot didn't seem to slow him down. Like he'll get back in the swing, and I think we got a bright future, but. The rumors resurfaced today, and I want to get your thoughts on this really quick. We're linked to Kevin Durant again.
I just don't see it, man. I saw his comments. Did you see his quotes about we're starting Edmund Sumner and who was it? Well, what's the shooter? Joe Harris. We're starting Joe Harris and Edmund Sumner and the guy from Nick Claxton.
Mm-hmm.
And me, like, what do you expect? And I was like, that's and he said, he said, that's the reason why I wanted to trade. Mm-hmm. And that's the most alarming thing that's always been with me for KD. Charles Barkley took KD on last postseason, calling him a bus rider. Yeah. And that's the exact quote.
Absolutely.
That shows it. Now, let me give you a caveat here. He's not the leader that can carry that team. He's never been the leader that he went and played for Steph's team, and Steph let KD get all the accolades. He did. He got the 2 Finals MVPs. He was incredible. He can't be the leader. However, if the Grizzlies decided, that would be the perfect situation if you ask Kevin Durant, because it is unquestioned who the leader of that team is. Yeah. That is Ja Morant. Yeah. And he loves Ja Morant, and he will go to war for Ja Morant.
Yeah.
And it makes sense on paper. The problem is, what do you give up? This team has been built by Kleiman and by Taylor Jenkins and by Tayshaun Prince with a long view in mind. They've always done that. Mm-hmm. They've been very willing to be patient with the young folks and develop them. Are they going to be willing to part ways? Because you're not going to get him for nothing. You're going to give up draft picks. You're going to give up Jaren, Zaire, one or the other, Dylan Brooks. You're going to have to give up key pieces and key building blocks for the future. For Kevin Durant, who's in the last 3 places he's been, has left unhappy. That's the risk you run with Kevin Durant. I'm not saying it's a bad move, and it immediately puts the Grizzlies, who are on top of the top 2 to 4 teams in the West, by all people who want to bother spending time to rank the team. They're up there, and it puts them at number 1.
Sure.
It does. But it is a chips on the table move. Yeah. And I just, with seeing how they've built this team,
I don't think it happens.
Pushing all chips in the middle of the table, man, that scares me to death.
But that's not the MO. I think it's a flashy pick. It's great in the short term, but I agree. It would give up too much.
The question is, do you change your answer because you know who has the best war chest that can offer for Kevin Durant? It's the Pelicans.
I know.
And does your answer change if the other offer on the table is from New Orleans? I don't know that you can beat a New Orleans offer, but I sure don't want to go to New Orleans either.
Yeah. And the only other name, and I know that this is a pipe dream. It always has been for mine, but you know who would be like a good fit on this team? I've always liked him. He's scrappy. He's a hustler. Scores points when you need him. He's a shooter. That's Bradley Beal, man. I like me some Bradley Beal.
I think we're past that. He's got a no trade clause, and for some reason, he seems to be happy in DC.
For whatever reason, but yeah, I agree. I think Kevin Durant's not going to happen. I'd rather have somebody like Bradley Beal, but we've got a chance. We got Oklahoma City this Friday night. Don't play again until the 18th.
And don't sleep on that game. Oklahoma City has been really good.
They're scrappy, man. They're young.
And by really good, it's all relative. That team. There's a trend this year of teams that we all expected to be bad that have been way better than. I mean, we're talking about Wembanyama here as the number 1 pick next year. Right. And all these teams like Oklahoma City and Utah were everybody's picked to just tank. I mean,
Yeah.
Presti loves nothing more than to tank.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and same with Danny Ainge.
Mm-hmm. But
And
the
they're
thing
not
about
doing
Oklahoma City, can any of the guys in Oklahoma City, can they legally drink yet?
no.
Exactly. So
I
they're
I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about Houston, and Houston is just atrocious,
mm-hmm.
and they don't have a single player on their team that was born before the year 2000.
Yeah.
If that makes you feel old, Rusty was born in 1972.
Close. The year of our Lord, 1987. But yeah, so we got a couple games coming up. We got Oklahoma City, Brooklyn this weekend. Then we play at Brooklyn. We get a chance to see Kevin Durant up close and personal before we play at home against Sacramento. And another shot at New Orleans, man. And I want to win that game on Friday night. Next Friday night, play New Orleans. I think that's a game we should have won the other night. I think it'd be a fun game to get back.
Sacramento's fun. I don't know if you've watched them. I watched them late last night. Or what? It may have been 2 nights ago. They played Brooklyn and just beat the ever-living crap out of them. And the pride of South Haven, Mississippi, former Ole Miss Rebel Terrence Davis went for 30 while shooting 75% from the field.
Dang.
And 7 threes. I mean, just absolute heater off the bench for him.
Well, listen, you can go watch him for as low as $8 per ESPN's ticket prices. So there you go.
Is that in Sacramento?
No, it's at home.
Oh, at home?
Yeah, Memphis.
Listen, don't forget where Memphis is. I love Memphis. It is still one of the poor cities in the country, and it is the way that stadium is built. It has so much roof space for tickets. I mean, that's what it is. They have very few tickets down low, and they have a ton of nosebleeds.
Yeah, they built to their audience. They know what they're up against. Blue collar city, blue collar players. They left those cheap tickets up top, man. But I can remember when they first moved to Memphis, and they were giving away 8 and 10 tickets on the radio because nobody would go watch them.
Yeah, you could go to the gas station and get a Grizzlies ticket and a ticket for the circus right there at the cash register.
Right there at the gas station, $5 a piece, and you get a Hot Brothers pizza to go.
Yeah. So, all right, let's wrap it up. What else you got on the docket?
All right, man. We're going to do this every week. You know, Drew is a sports aficionado, stat machine, knows what's up, knows different sports left and right. So it is time for our world famous, everybody's looking forward to it, in minute 55, Drew Soccer Minute. What you got for me in the world of soccer, Drew?
Oh, minute 55? Okay. Well, listen.
Something like that.
we all love soccer, right? It's the most beautiful game. It's played on a patch of grass just like football. It's the English football. I don't know why we don't pay attention. I do have a problem with it, though. So this year, every 4 years, I don't know if you know, in soccer, they have the World Cup. It's the Olympics for soccer, but don't they also have soccer in the Olympics? That seems a little redundant. Yeah. Do they? I don't know. The point of this segment is not to be correct about my soccer analysis, okay? The point I want to make here is the World Cup starts this week. Did you know that?
I didn't.
All right. It starts the week of Thanksgiving, the American holiday in which we celebrate the creation and the landing on this continent. You know, Christopher Columbus in 1492 landed at Plymouth Rock, slayed a bunch of Indians, and ate some corn. And we celebrate this. And in the year of our Lord 2022, as we celebrate our Thanksgiving, our first meal as a country, we send our athletes to Qatar
with a rainbow on their chest.
We send them to the Middle East to play Wales, which I thought was England. But apparently it's a separate country. I don't know. I guess it's like if California sent a team to play against the United States. I don't know. But in our group, we play in Group B. Okay, so I'm assuming there's 4 teams in each group. We have the United States and Wales, and we have Iran, who crowd favorite here in the U.S. We love the Iranians. Okay, they play England, so you've got Wales and England playing against each other, but I thought they were the same. So if you could tell me the difference in England and Wales, then I'll buy your next drink.
I got nothing.
Yeah. So if on this podcast, Rusty, I tell him every week, don't bet the unders, because if you bet the unders, it's basically like watching soccer, because it's just dudes running around.
Awesome.
So
yeah. Very cool, man. Well, listen, a great second episode, getting our feet underneath us. Remember, our betting advice is not betting advice. You bet with your head, not your heart. And as my good buddy Whit, a friend of mine, he has started a sports blog. I told him to give a shout out tonight. Single high sports coverage. Give it a read online. He always says bet for fun, not to retire. So keep that in mind as you're making your picks this week. Drew, I enjoyed it, man. Ton of fun. Looking forward to talking more Grizz, SEC, and League of Avengers coming up, buddy.
all right, man. We will talk soon.
Yep. See ya.
Bye guys.